we
I
won't
think
talk about
every
that right now.
surfer has, and don't be ashamed. Many great surfers too.
Right. So, but then there's this other version of a person who like can catch a wave but they're just like, this is mine, this is my thing. And they're like, then the etiquette gets real slippery because basically no matter what they do, they're always in the right.
There's a seniority
So
almost,
like, for example,
it's like it's more hierarchy.
yeah.
It's more hierarchy a lot of times in certain places, particularly.
Yeah, yeah. And, it's funny because I remember this one time I was the only one out there and I like caught a wave and there's a guy standing in the water coming out. And, I'm on the wave and I come near him because I'm on the wave and he is standing on his feet. And then he was like, "You're so dangerous. You could fucking kill someone." And I was like, "What are you talking about? Like, you're on your feet. I'm on the wave. Like, I have the right of way."
Exactly.
And why are you yelling at me? Because one, I could be a ninja and like go and kick your ass on the street. Or I could be like somebody really famous and fancy that you want to hang out with. Or I'm just like a regular person and you don't talk to people like that.
Well, that's one of the interesting things also about surfing in New York is you don't know who is who out in the lineup. And it could be, a fireman or someone who's really sacrificing a lot, or it could be a super wealthy person. It could be the plumber that you need. It's like,
or it could be like a friend of a friend, you just don't know. And I think we talked about this when we first met. I was like, you just like, you can't explode at people because you don't know who they are. And if you were in another circumstance, granted, there's levels of danger involved. So I understand when there's like a visceral reaction, but like, say if we were walking on the street, like if we bumped into each other, I wouldn't scream like, "What are you doing? You can kill someone!" Da, da, da,
But if you were on a bike and you came by, maybe.
Oh yeah, like I've been doored on a bike too. So like I got doored by a cop once.
What?
Yeah, and I I got doored by a cop and I like started screaming at the cop like, "What are you doing? Protect and serve!"
So then that next level, then like, what do you? So you're at this next. What is the experience like? As you start to learn more about it, do you think, oh, this is kind of bullshit how it's been, or do you think or do you see some value in some of it, or do you see how some of the things could have gotten perverted over time also?
I think it's like a combination of all those things. I do see the value, obviously, in there being some sort of organizational system. And when so we went to Spain a couple summers ago and we surfed there. And we were on like near San Sebastian, like on the north coast. And it was,
oh my God, eat and surf.
And it was amazing. Yeah. It's great surf and it's really, really family oriented. Like everybody on the beach has a surfboard and people are just going in and out and there's schools. And the thing that I thought that was so interesting about the schools was that there's like a ladder similar to how there is like when I took swim lessons as a kid, like you move up the ladder. So like at each stage, like the kids are learning like the etiquette and there's also signs posted like at the entrance to the beach, like this is priority. This is the right of way. Don't do this. Don't backdoor people, all these things. So, and also there's just like those beaches are bigger and have more room. So there's that too. So I do understand like, there's a certain amount of risk. There should be, rules and stuff like that. But I do think that there's like a lot of like gatekeeping and snobbery and like people are, and like, listen, I love Kook of the Day. I am terrified that one day I'll land on it. But like, the instinct to like either like berate or make fun of people who are new to the sport is really discouraging and is a way to keep people out of it.
Yeah.
You know, because
It's totally.
And you see people who are like, who will yell at you about etiquette, breaking it like on the reg all the time. Like if you just caught a wave, you're supposed to like paddle back out and wait and not take the next wave that comes. But I see dudes doing that all the time. And it's just like, you know, I'm not going to get into it with them. And I'm also like not proficient enough to like just burn them, which is my ultimate fantasy. But I'm working on it. because the thing is too, is like, I think that people look at, you know, I don't know, I'm a woman, I'm older, I'm a little chubby. They like look at me and they're like, oh, she can't fucking surf. And a lot of times I can't, but a lot of times I can. And I'm also like a nice person. And I really am going out there to have a good time. Like would I love to be a better surfer? Yes. Do I want to cross step? 100%. I want to do all those things. But I really like just being out there and like is very relaxing to me. And especially with, you know, the year that everybody's had, it's just such a nice break to like be out there and like be out in space. And like, I don't need to be mansplained to every time I go in the water. Like, oh, you know, if you paddled one more time, you would have caught that. Oh, if you did, I'm like, I'm not asking you for your opinions. Like, do I have a sign on my head that says like, please teach me how to surf? Which I need to learn how to surf better. But like at the same time, like if I don't know you, like please just don't like feel free to boss me around. I feel like I'm contradicting myself a little bit, but like like I want everybody to be friendly. Like I want to go out there and like see familiar faces and have everybody be like, hey, what's up? And like when I see people catch great waves, I'm like so excited for them. But it's like almost at the point, like sometimes the vibe in the water is like, you don't even want to like acknowledge that somebody caught a great wave because have like a face.
Well, I think like some of that has to do with, you know, it has a lot to do with just the people in general. We all need to, I actually think, and I've talked about this on another episode not too long ago, like how I think it would be really beneficial if we acknowledge each other in the lineup by saying hi or just something to break down that dehumanization. Because there's been so many times for me, especially particularly when I was younger, when you're young and dumb and kind of competitive and aggressive, and I would be out at a peak and be another guy who probably be similar skill level too. So there's a bit of that rivalry, and you're dehumanizing them. And you're watching them paddle, and they're almost back paddling you a little bit, and you get this whole thing in your head. You build up a whole story about this person, and then more often than not, I've had it where they caught a good wave. And then I caught the one after. And as I pull out, they're like hooting or something. And you say something like, oh, that's sick. And then the next thing you know, you're like best friends. And
right.
So
which is the best.
Like, I think we need signs on the beach with all the etiquette and everything. But then also say, please be respectful and say hi to your neighbor in the lineup. You know? God, I feel. I feel like for a second Seinfeld, where the one where they told Mayor David Dinkins to put the name tag on. Hello, Joe.
Totally. I mean, it's funny because I do say hi to most people unless you're really have like a bad face on, and people will look at me like I'm insane. But I also, it's funny because as a nurse, like I was a photographer before I was a nurse. So I had like a real big career change. And there was like a lot of cultural stuff like about working in a hospital. And I work with an incredibly diverse group of people. And my first, when you're like a brand new nurse and you start working, you have a preceptor who's like a senior nurse. So they're like training you for a certain amount of time. And my preceptor, Miss Bev, who I love, she was from Guyana, and she was like, look, I'm going to tell you something because you're a white person. You're going to say good morning and say everybody's name when you see them. Like, you're not going to pass people in the hallway and not acknowledge that they're there. And that was not something I knew about like Caribbean culture, but that is like a very, very real thing within the hospital world that I work in. And ever since then, I'm like, well, I just might as well say hi to everybody. So I say hi to my neighbors. I say hi to people in the water. When my deli guys, hi, how are you? Like, it's just, I'm at this point, like, I'm so much more interested in like building community than like gatekeeping. Like, gatekeeping, like, is really my biggest pet peeve right now.
Well, I think it's, I can get in the headspace of a lot of people, and I think part of it is obviously the feeling of finite resources, and seeing the crowds over time it can be quite disheartening to some people who experienced a different time when it was less crowded, and so I think there's that type of mentality that you're dealing with. And then, there's obviously the ego aspect. We all kind of get off at being good at something. And if you grew up doing this and you feel pretty confident doing it, it definitely feeds that ego. And it's really easy to slip. It's so easy to slip into a certain attitude in the lineup, a certain entitled attitude, in fact. And I mean, sometimes it could be nice. Like, sometimes if someone's confident in the lineup and they're corralling people and they're helping to direct the traffic in the lineup and calling people into waves, like, totally. That's a good kind of confidence you want. But then there's the other where it's like, I've been doing this for so long. They justify it by saying, I've been doing this for so long. I grew up here. I don't know you. You haven't put in the time. You haven't put in, the grit and whatever they want to throw into there to justify it. So if I want to take a wave, I'm going to take a wave. And that's kind of a lot of people's attitudes, which, it's also was something I think ground into a lot of people who grew up surfing of a different time period. And and I think that there's that remnant.
I've definitely heard that. Like, like, I obviously didn't grow up surfing, but in every story about every person that I've heard growing up surfing is like being yelled at by grown adults.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm just like, how are you yelling at a child? So when my kids will come out surfing every once in a while, and my son he's now 15, but when he started, he was like 12 or whatever. And, he thinks he's like Kelly Slater out there.
Nice.
Like, he's always too close to people. He's like a magnet. He's always at the peak. He's always in somebody's way. Luckily, usually when we go, it's warmer weather. Yeah. We go to like the learning beaches. A lot of most of the teachers out there know who he is. So they're like, all right, like, but I'm like, like when we went to Montauk, I was like, you need to get out of people's way because these people don't know you and they're going to scream at you. And he's like, yeah. He like totally ignores me. But, it's just, I just can't imagine like looking at a child and yelling at them.
Oh, do you know what they used to do to grommets? They have a thing called grommet abuse. It was a hazing. Particularly in Australia, it was quite strong, where they would like, the kid got out of line, tie him up to the flagpole, throw fecal matter on them, like totally just, it was grommet abuse. I mean, Taj Burrow, famous surfer, there's video footage in one of the Lost movies of him getting abused by like Tom Carroll, Ross Clark Jones. They're duct taping him up and doing all this stuff. So it's like kind of this weird fratty kind of thing that definitely was in surfing, because obviously it was very male dominated, for many years. But it's the abuse was
and that's common
really bad. It used to be, until people were like, hey, we can get arrested for this. We shouldn't do this anymore. You know, like
right. And that's